What can I say about Deadpool that hasn't already been said by the man himself? He's the red and black clad merc with a mouth, destroying any and all fourth walls near you. Deadpool, real name Wade Wilson, made his first appearance in issue 98 of New Mutants in 1990, and he has a pretty complicated history to lay out all in one video, so I'll give you the Cliff Notes version instead. Wade was a former special ops and CIA-funded assassin. Learning that he had developed numerous cancerous tumors, he took an offer from a Canadian government program and became a test subject in the Weapon X experiments. To facilitate this, a healing factor was implanted in a way that seemingly held his cancer back. Things eventually went sideways with Weapon X, and he found himself subjected to torturous experiments at the hospice, a facility where failed superhuman experiments and such were treated. Wade was able to escape, killing his tormentor and freeing all of the other patients. It was then when he took up the name Deadpool, named after the pool of bets patients would make on the next patient at the facility to die. Deadpool's most defining trait by far is his ability to break the fourth wall. Simply put, Deadpool is aware that he's in a comic book and on multiple occasions has even weaponized this fact. Before Deadpool, She-Hulk was Marvel's resident fourth wall breaker, but these days Deadpool's more known for it. She-Hulk even references this in Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
If there's ever an MVC4, I'll destroy you there too, Wade.
Deadpool's crossed paths with just about everybody in the Marvel Universe, from the X-Men, to Spider-Man, to Thanos, to even Death herself. Deadpool's most well-known and longest partner is probably Cable, as depicted in the Cable and Deadpool series that ran from the mid to late 2000s. Cable plays the stoic straight man in Wade's over-the-top comedy, and works surprisingly well together. All of Deadpool's antics translate over to his appearance in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Deadpool was one of the first new characters teased for the game, showing up as a silhouette in the game's first trailer and on promotional art prior to E3 2010, before officially being confirmed in an issue of Game Informer just ahead of the aforementioned E3, where he was officially shown off for the first time, serving as a rival for Capcom's own wisecracking red-clad mercenary, Dante. I think Deadpool might honestly have just about the most work put into him in any character on the roster, at least from a presentation standpoint. There's so many little touches and details Capcom went above and beyond for here that really bring him to life, and I'm pretty excited to talk about it all, so without further ado, let's get into things. Deadpool has a primarily zoning-based moveset, fittingly being centered around being as absolutely annoying as humanly possible with as many projectiles as possible. He does have a few close-range moves, but they're best served for extending combos, at least once Deadpool finds a reliable way to get in his opponent's face. What works against Deadpool a lot of the time is that he tends to get hit pretty hard by hit stun scaling, so long-form combos with him tend to be pretty execution-heavy because of their tight timing. Deadpool's vocal theme is, well, kind of a nonsensical vocal theme, but I imagine that's kind of the point. Before we get into his special moves, I want to talk a bit about his launcher and his command normal. This is Deadpool's launcher. It's straight up a Shoryuken. It's not a reversal, and it doesn't have any startup invulnerability, so it's really only one in name only, but it's still pretty hilarious. It's not just Deadpool doing this because he's in the Capcom game either. This is taken from an infamous page from issue 27 of Joe Kelly's run on Deadpool. Remember that name because it's gonna come up later. Next is his command normal, Mad Wheel, done with forward and medium. It's a slow, two-hit attack that also hits overhead. It's easy to see coming, but the real secret sauce is in how long its hitbox stays active. A well-timed one won't snuff out every attack, but at worst it'll at least trade. Deadpool's quarter circle forward attack is trigger happy. The strength of the attack button pressed determines the angle at which Deadpool fires. Light is low, medium is straight across, and heavy is upwards at a 45-degree angle. He can do this in the air, and it applies there as well, with the addition that the light version now angles downwards at a 45-degree angle. It also hits OTG in the air as well. Deadpool also has a separate series of moves that he can access through Trigger Happy if he double presses an attack button during the startup of Trigger Happy. The first is Ninja Gift Shuriken.
Present for ya. Present for ya.
The second is Ninja Gift Grenade. Be aware that these linger for a second before exploding.
Pineapple surprise! Pineapple surprise! Pineapple surprise!
The last one is probably his most important, the Bolo. This puts the enemy in a unique capture state that allows for solo combo extensions from Deadpool. Do be aware that these can all be done on the ground as well as in the air. Here's an example of some practical application of the Bolo.
First attack! Air combo! Little dope! This is the win! Incredible!
Next up is Quick Work, a grounded dash attack whose distance and startup depends on the strength of the attack button used in conjunction with the quarter circle back motion. We'll be coming back to an additional property of this move in a bit. Katana Rama is done with a Dragon Punch motion and attack, and again, the strength of the attack button push determines the angle of the attack. Light hits high, medium is a mid, and heavy hits low. Chimichangas is a follow-up wall bounce attack that can be done by pressing heavy attack after doing either Quick Work or Katana Rama. For Quick Work in particular, the window in which you could cancel in the Chimichangas is quite small, but the window increases a few frames depending on which strength variation of Quick Work you used, the heavy version providing the biggest window. Next up is Deadpool's Teleporter, which has him teleport to a set part of the screen depending on the button pressed. Light always teleports him to the left side of the screen, medium the center of the screen, and high to the far right of the screen. Deadpool used the teleporter for a good chunk of his runs during the late 90s to late 2000s, though they were prone to malfunctioning, and in some cases with pretty horrific results. Do take note of Deadpool's voice line here for a successful teleport. Bamf, of course, being the associated onomatopoeia used in the comics for when Nightcrawler uses his teleportation abilities. This is actually somewhat reflected in Marvel 3 as well. Every third use of the teleport has it malfunction and explode, doing a tiny bit of damage and sending Deadpool backwards. However, there's one interesting property to note here. In the short bit of time before Deadpool hits the ground after the backfire, he can actually cancel into a hyper combo or an X Factor. Deadpool's taunt should be mentioned here as well. He points out that you have indeed initiated his taunt. There's two neat practical things about this taunt. The first is that it actually hits the opponent. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but the fact that it even does any in the first place is hilarious. Secondly, the taunt itself is special and super cancelable, so if you wanted to be funny or style on your opponent, you could reasonably work it into a combo even if it'd be somewhat impractical. Let's take a look at the combo that incorporates some of the unique moves I mentioned before. You may have noticed that Deadpool's text box is yellow, and that's not a weird creative liberty Capcom took either. Deadpool's text bubbles in the comics have been yellow since his 1990s run from Joe Kelly. They're more or less his trademark at this point. Speaking of that Joe Kelly run, that's going to be this video's comic book recommendation, Joe Kelly's 1997 Deadpool run. Deadpool has had some ups and downs over the years, and I was honestly considering going with Fabian Nicieza's Cable and Deadpool run for the recommendation here, but I think I'll give that an honorable mention instead. So much of what makes Deadpool what he is comes from Kelly's run. His sense of humor, the yellow text boxes, his fourth wall breaking, his offbeat cast of support characters, they all started with Kelly's run. What's great about this particular run is that Deadpool is a character you could easily assign the stigma of being someone just devoid of depth and relying on random humor, which, in all fairness, is the case for him sometimes. But Kelly's run stands in defiance of that, and instead manages to work all of the aforementioned elements in, while still reminding the reader that Wade is a human being with thoughts, feelings, and most importantly, a heart. And that's what I think gives this run the edge as my recommendation for this video. It's tremendous heart. It's a relatively uncomplicated run to read through as well. It started in 1997 and ran until about 2002 and has been collected in trades as well, though Kelly's specific run on the book ends at about issue 33. I highly recommend it. Back to his moveset, Deadpool's first hyper combo is Happy Happy Trigger. This can be done in the air and can also hit OTG. If you can Tiger Knee it, it's a great way to tack on some additional damage after an air combo ender. His next one is Cutting Time, a pretty straightforward set of slashes he does with his katanas. This one is incredibly quick, so if you're not already blocking when this goes off, you're likely to get hit. Deadpool's level 3 is arguably his most well-known hyper combo, despite how impractical it is, Fourth Wall Crisis. This is a counter super, where if he's hit when he goes into his counter state, he blinds the opponent before attacking them with his own life bar and hyper combo meter. Unlike Cutting Time, you can somewhat reliably react to the super flash here, making this a lot harder to pull off on someone familiar with fighting Deadpool. Here are Deadpool's assists. First is Quick Work. Next is Katana Rama. And last is Trigger Happy. There's a lot of small, neat little references and details when it comes to Deadpool in this game, so let's get it all in one contained section. First off, Deadpool is voiced by Nolan North, who's done the VA for him in a ton of things. If you play video games even semi-regularly, chances are you've heard North in at least 1 or 2 games. For my money, he's the best voice actor Deadpool's ever had. When Deadpool is tagged in, if you leave him idle, he'll do a bunch of poses, at least before realizing he's facing the wrong way. His backwards walk cycle is just straight up a moonwalk. He's not the only character in the game to have a victory animation that breaks the fourth wall, as Wesker, Jill, Super Skrull, and a few others do, but he's the only one that does so while directly addressing the player.
You were recording that, weren't you, player? No? What do you mean you weren't recording that?
Chimichangas are something usually associated with Deadpool, but for as much as that happens, he's not even all that fond of them. He just likes how the word sounds. Makes sense he'd name a move after them. Let's take a look at Deadpool's colors. His first color is his iconic red and black suit. Color 2 is based on issue 17 of his second solo series, where he dons an X-Men outfit to try to get in the good graces of and hopefully gain membership with the X-Men. It actually goes better than you'd think. Color 3 is based off of Death Wish from the Identity Wars story. I mentioned this in the Doom video, but this was a story involving Hulk, Spider-Man, and Deadpool all ending up in an alternate universe. Death Wish looked like a green Deadpool, but under the suit was actually Victor Von Doom, having descended into madness after the Fantastic Four of this universe disbanded, after the defeat of Galactus by this universe's Spider-Man equivalent. Have I mentioned how wild comics can get sometimes? Color 4 is Deadpool's X-Men outfit from Weapon X Days of Future Now, where Wolverine assembles a new X-Men team including characters like Deadpool and Mystique, after Director Carcord kills most of the main X-Men. You might recall that Carcord also made a cameo in the ending sequence for Nemesis in Marvel 3 as well, alongside Resident Evil's Oswald Spencer. Color 5 is Deadpool's Weapon X outfit from issues 57 through 60 of his first solo book. It also bears mentioning that the writer behind that specific arc, Frank Thierry, also wrote all of the character dialogue and endings in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Color 6 is Deadpool's X-Force outfit from Rick Remender's Uncanny X-Force run. Deadpool's alternate costume comes from issue 26 of Cable's solo series, branded as a Deadpool and Cable issue and serving as something of an epilogue for the book as a whole. He also has a unique voice line for this costume as well.
And you thought Cable wasn't in this game.
Let's take a look at his ending. Alright, so there's a lot to unpack here as far as cameos go. So there's Captain Commando. If you're watching this video, you probably know him. Next is Tiffany Lawrence from the Rival Schools series. Then there's June from Star Gladiator, making yet another cameo in the Versus games. Hell, this isn't even her only one in Marvel 3. Then, on the Marvel side of things, you have Phantom X and Archangel, both of whom Deadpool worked alongside as part of X-Force. There's Domino, who also coincidentally debuted in the same exact issue of New Mutants that Deadpool did. Kind of. Sorta. It's complicated. There's Cable, which isn't surprising. On the bottom there is Bob, Agent of Hydra, a supporting character from the Cable and Deadpool series. And perhaps the biggest deep cut here is Slapstick. Slapstick can be best described as a living cartoon character, I guess. He had a run-in with some clowns and a mirror that was actually a portal to another dimension, and well, here we are. He's definitely one of Marvel's sillier characters. Of course, Deadpool being Deadpool, he has dialogue with quite a few characters.
Hey, I freaking love Street Fighter! Autograph your spleen for me?
Ready when you are.
Ready? Player one wins!
I get the cover of the next Street Fighter for this, right, Capcom? Right? How did anyone ever enjoy these games without me in them? Let's get this over with.
It's do or die.
Next time, maybe you should let Nero do your fighting, Skippy. Yeah. Hey, it's Dr. Normal! Well, normal compared to me, anyway.
One does not require the Eye of Agamotto to see this outcome.
It's do or die. Wins.
Go read your spell books, Doc. I'll stick to my back issues of Dazzler.
For the uninitiated, Dazzler, whose real name is Allison Blair, is a mutant that has the ability to change sound vibrations into light. She generally hangs out with the X-Men. She's pretty cool and even had her own ongoing series in the early 1980s.
Objection! Oh man, that is really fun to say.
Your Honor, the defense is ready to present.
It's do or die.
I'd say justice was served. No, I don't know how. Just roll with it, okay, people? Magneto! Welcome to die!
To share my dream for this world.
This one is a reference to Magneto's infamous voice acting from Konami's X-Men arcade game.
X-Men, welcome to die!
Player one wins.
I just beat Mag freaking Nito! Where your curly mustache at?
This one directly references the infamous Marvel Baby video,
Marvel, baby!
where FGC legend and also EVO 2007 Marvel vs. Capcom 2 champion IFC Yipes is recorded making increasingly hilarious commentary over the course of several Marvel vs. Capcom 2 matches. It just might be the single best reference in the game, and it's just one of a handful of times Marvel 3 references that specific legendary video.
Gonna rough you up like a Broadway musical.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man at your service.
Get ready to brawl.
Ah, that was too easy. Maybe it would have helped if you turned off the dark.
These two bits of dialogue reference the short-lived Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark Broadway play, which was infamously plagued with production issues and particularly actors being injured on set during stunts. And his win quote here pokes fun at Wesker's Phantom Dance hyper combo, which, thanks to its similarities in both form and function to Spidey's Maximum Spider Super, led to it being nicknamed Maximum Wesker among some players during Marvel 3's original launch. This win quote's only in the Ultimate version of the game, so it was definitely done in response to that.
Short and short on deodorant is a real bad combination, Stabby.
Best thing is what I do.
Get ready to brawl. One wins.
You see that? That's how you beat Wolverine, people. And you don't even need optic blasts!
His bit with Wolverine here is of course referencing Deadpool's portrayal in the movie X-Men Origins Wolverine, where he had optic glass for some weird reason.
How is that fair? How is that fair?
And last but not least, his win quote against Arthur references the infamous difficulty of the Ghost and Goblin series.
How is that fair?
Actually, there's one last thing I want to mention. Deadpool has a unique victory quote against Amaterasu, but because of a bug, the line only comes up when fighting Spencer instead. When Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was announced, Deadpool seemed like one of the single most obvious characters to include, and it was no surprise to see him among the first silhouettes teased for the game. Simply put, Capcom did an incredible job with him. He's fun to play, he's annoying to play against, and they kept every little tick that makes Deadpool who he is and interpreted through the lens of a fighting game. It's not the first time a comedic character has been in the Versus games. There's Dan, of course, as well as Norimaro, and even She-Hulk at one point in time was proposed for Marvel vs. Capcom 1, with ideas for her to break the fourth wall in much of the same ways Deadpool would in 3. But he's far and away the most memorable example, and I think even people that were kind of lukewarm on Marvel 3 can generally agree he's one of the best implemented characters for sure. That said, that's going to do it for this video. I think I've found a pretty good rhythm for getting these out, so I think that I'm in a position to say now that this series will be operating on a bi-weekly schedule, and a new video will come out every 2 weeks. Now, that might be subject to change, but for now, that's the goal. If anything changes, I'll make a community post announcing things. But I want to thank everyone for watching and supporting the channel, and I look forward to seeing you at the next video. Until then, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you guys then.